So we just got done filming, and I am not in the shot whatsoever. It's gonna look. Yeah, not at all. It's gonna look very dumb. But it is what it is. We're running it either way. So just so you know, we're fully aware of it, and sorry about that.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
I think the content's worthwhile.
Yeah, I think the content's absolutely worthwhile. But it's just gonna look dumb. So thank you for understanding. Oops. Cheers.
Cheers.
Love it, man.
Love it too.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm gonna be talking quiet, so I'm gonna go a little closer. Mm-hmm. Let's say you were in a relationship, and you really like this person.
Yep.
Let's say overall they were, if you take all factors into consideration, the person you deem to be the best you've been with, the best for you you've been with.
Yes. Okay.
You know. Now let's say you hit a point with them that you realize if this is going to happen, it's really going to happen. We're really, really, really going to do this.
Mm-hmm.
However, there's something about yourself that is pretty dang bad. And I'm not talking about like your liver. Some decision you've made, or even potentially decisions you've made. We both blundered.
We're not paying attention.
We're not paying attention. It'll be even pieces at this point, though.
Mm-hmm.
No, we are not paying attention.
So, serious relationship.
Yes.
Decision you've made.
But there's something about yourself that if you wanted the ideal relationship, you wanted the most trusting, the most honest, the most open, you wanted to actually build like a lifelong partnership.
Mm-hmm.
This would be something that like they should know.
Yeah.
You know. Now you don't have to tell them.
Mm-hmm.
You'll still have a great relationship. You don't have to tell them.
Yeah.
But inside, like, no, if I want like the best relationship with this person, I want what's best. They deserve to know. But the downside is it's going to be incredibly difficult for them to hear. It's going to be difficult for you to admit to your fault.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be something that they leave you because of. It might just be too much for them to handle.
Sure.
You tell
them. So I guess my question back to you is immediately, do you want the should or the what I probably would do?
The what you would do and why.
Dang it, that's exactly what I was going to do. Ugh. See, now I don't like this. Well, what I would do is probably not what I would deem someone should do. And the reason I say that is because I probably would not say anything immediately.
Check. Okay, why is that? I'm going to throw a scenario in.
Yep.
You're at a point where this person or you as a team are going to be making large life choices
Mm.
in order to continue on. The relationship is a point where both of you, and potentially, let's just say this, both of you and they more so than you
Mm-hmm.
are going to be making life-changing decisions specifically for the survival of this relationship, for the advancement of this relationship. You're kind of hitting that point
Mm-hmm.
where if you didn't tell them now before they did that and they did all this commitment and they found out afterwards and they had a problem with it, it would almost certainly end the relationship.
Right.
So you kind of have to either do it now.
It's shit or get off the pot.
Correct.
Let's do it or don't do it.
Correct.
Yep. Yeah, in that context, then yeah, and let me caveat that. Yes, definitely. Especially in the sense that if it's something that's weighing on me, that like it's there. It's not something that like I can think of things I've made mistakes in the past, things that like might be useful for me to bring up and say in a relationship. But also I can go my entire relationship and never say them, and it's not gonna like deter me or make me. It's not gonna ruin anything. It's not even gonna be living an untrue function. It's just going to be like it's not really relevant information. It'll probably make you think less of me. It may not. Maybe it helps us gain, but those things are not net negatives or positives. They don't weigh on me like that.
Okay.
If this is something that weighs on me, then yeah. I mean, I think you're hitting the nail on the head here. It's basically like you just have to do it. Rip it off like a Band-Aid. Without that, what you have is you're essentially living some aspect of an untrue life, right?
Hmm.
Without that, you live this sense of, I'm not fully there, right? So if you want to be fully there and have everything with it, you don't get everything all the time. Life ain't perfect, and it's going to be freaking bumpy road no matter what you do. But if you want the most fulfillment you can have, then yeah, you need to get that out in the open. It needs to be present. Because if you can't go through that, then it can't be what it needs to be.
Okay. You're holding life back.
Mm-hmm.
You're holding life back for that person and yourself, and
Yeah.
and you're pretty much lying to that person.
Yes.
You know, and maybe like what you have without the exposure of that truth is really, really good. And maybe they're happy.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe there's a net positive for them.
Mm-hmm.
But you're
not 100% there.
No, and if you really care about that person, it's like this is what's best for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to hurt you. And at least initially, and certainly into the future as you think about it, it's going to hurt you. And I don't need to say it to you. You could live oblivious to it. Yeah, and you could be very happy not knowing it.
But it's not full.
It's not full and it's not fair. Because what's best for you is to know this.
Correct.
And it's like, you know.
So this goes to the heart of something you and I were sitting talking about the other day, actually.
Okay.
So it was essentially we find ourselves doing things where we don't live perfect lives, but when we understand something, we try to aim at that new thing that we're trying to understand, right? And sometimes to others that can be really frustrating because it seems like we're just pushing nonstop, right? Like we're just aiming for this like perfect thing when others just want to continue to function.
The conversation we had.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So if we're aiming at this perfect thing, like we fully understand we will not achieve perfection, but that does not deter you from actively working towards that idea.
Pursuing it. Yep.
So in this same vein, it's like that kind of goes to the nature of the discussion that we had, which is, do we do this or should we do less than that? Is it painful to people? Is it actually ungood to people to push that hard?
And I think, I'm not sure I spaced out when you started talking.
Mm-hmm.
Apologies. But I think I didn't hear the context of it, but in case people are wondering, the conversation we were having was you've got these high aspirations, these high standards,
Yes.
this like moral rigidity, these top level standards of how you conduct yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And now while we don't
achieve them.
Well, we don't perfectly achieve them.
Mm-hmm.
We also do not hold others around us to those standards.
Correct. Because
we realize at least some of them are ridiculous, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
However, the problem that comes of it is that those people around us, perhaps we don't effectively convey to them that we do not hold them to the same standards. Mm-hmm. So they feel as though they will never be good enough for us because we have these ridiculous standards. So that's how this conversation.
Yes. Thank you for the backdrop on that as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So I take that concept and I almost flip it on ourselves here. So if we don't hold those standards for others, but we hold them for ourselves, which I think there's entirely utility in that, because what that allows you is it allows you to give grace to others and it still allows you to drive towards goodness. I also put in there, we should flip that context as well. Like, we need to be able to give ourselves grace for the inability to hit that perfection, right? Just as like, so if that is your standard, you would give me grace for not living up to your standard, and vice versa. I have a standard, and if you don't live up to that standard, I still give you grace for that. Yeah. So can we flip that and actually apply that to ourselves? So take your question that you gave earlier. Do you do the thing? Do you step in and bring up the conversation? Okay. Well, yes, because it's actually the right thing to do. But in that space, you need to find an area where you can give yourself grace for the fact that that person probably does not hold you to the standard that you're holding yourself to, right? So you're coming in here way up here and you're dropping this bomb on them. Now, it might shift and they might jump their standards up, but I almost guarantee it's not going to get to the level that you've already set for yourself. So how do you mitigate that gap with grace for yourself?
Is that actual or rhetorical?
Either.
Okay. Let's go with rhetorical, and that's a valid point. I think it's a valid, good point, as long as you do, especially when you are in the wrong, when you have done the harm, when the fault is yours. It's valid to show yourself grace as long as your standard on what you need to do is about as high as it can fucking be. You know, you can't be out there making mistakes and then just be, you know,
flippant about it.
Yeah, be like, well, I'm going to give myself grace. Oh, we all make mistakes. No regrets. You know, it's like,
it's that culture we were talking about of just love yourself. It's like,
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I take that culture and I understand where it comes from. I'm not saying the concept is bad. I'm saying the application is bad. Most of the application that people go with, just love yourself, is like, just excuse any mistakes you make.
Accept no responsibility.
Yeah, essentially. That's the ignorant version of that, which I feel like that's the majority of it. But the concept of love yourself includes this actual concept of grace. So the only pushback I would give you there is, while I agree with your direction, I think the application is actually limitless. So even top standard, give yourself a little grace because it's your absolute top standard, drop it a notch. I actually even say here, okay? Even like a minor thing that like, you shouldn't screw this up. This is simple. And you screwed up. I'm still saying, give yourself grace. Now, grace does not dismiss. It doesn't relinquish. It doesn't like say, it's basically forgiveness, right? So forgiveness is not, I forget that this happened. I completely accept it as if it's not a problem. It's saying, no, I see it. I forgive it. I understand it was what it was, and I let it be. Now, that doesn't mean you do that again and I care. I care. I still care. It's not going to be walked upon. But I let go of that. That's really what it is. It's the ability to let go of the weight that it holds upon you, even at this low standard. Let go, do better.
I have a question for you.
Yep.
Good points. Let's say you take the route of telling the other person this.
Mm-hmm.
You choose, you say, this might completely destroy what we have. It's going to hurt you. It's going to hurt me. It's the right thing to do. I take that path.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want some of this?
No.
Okay. Let's say they work with you. Let's say they seemingly are in the process of trying to forgive you, trying to understand, really trying to work with you is the best way to describe it.
Yep.
However, it only works on the condition of this not being a repeating offense, let's say.
Sure.
And let's say in your mind, you know it's not a repeating offense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's already set in stone.
Yes. Yes. In your mind, you know. They do not.
Mm-hmm.
How do you
navigate those waters?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say an answer that is not allowed to be given is just over time, show them, over the next 10 years, someone's like, no, I need like some pretty damn fast results.
Yeah. Like this needs to be clear, not an ambiguous.
This needs to be, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what's the unambiguous way that you can accept and go forward?
Correct.
I think, therefore I am. So you need to see input. Now, what that would be to me is they're going to give you some level of feedback. Can't be specific on that because I don't know what it looks like for each person. But they'll give you some level of feedback that, to the best that you can tell with them, is their way of understanding. So it's not that hip level, I got it. No, I understand. It goes, no. I understand down to the core why, how, what, all the details around it. I understand it. I still see you for who you are, and I accept that. I move on beyond this. And it needs to almost be articulated in that manner. Now, I don't think that happens in a day or a week because I don't think you'll accept it in that time frame. Okay? I'm not saying it needs to be 10 years either, but I think it requires an excessive amount of dialogue. So with this, there comes a little bit of a caveat from the other side of the field there. They can't come at it trying to immediately solve this either. And that's the part that I would love to give you. Like, oh, here's Band-Aid, fix it, it's done. It's like, no. You have an open wound. You need to build the structure that keeps it safe, right? You can't just like call it good. No. You need to pack that wound. You need to disinfect it. You need to stitch it up. And you need to do that repeatedly until it heals, right? You do not just get a giant wound. Good, right? So in that, they need to continuously pack that wound, give you the feedback that tells you, no, I do understand. I do get it. And I accept it. Okay? Maybe it does change something. Like if you get a giant wound, it's like, you're not going to just walk okay if your thigh has been destroyed. It's like, nope. There's going to be a different way that I walk now. There's going to be a different motor function at this point. But that doesn't deter me from continuing. That doesn't stop it. So let me remove these dirty gauze. Let me repack this wound. Let me ensure to you that it will be okay. Does that make sense?
I think so.
So it's not an immediate thing.
Okay.
It's a healing.
And what if I completely missed this? I apologize if I did. what can the person who is the perpetrator, let's say,
Yeah.
what can they do? What should they do?
What should I do?
I fuck up, therefore I repent.
Yeah. So, holy hell.
What was that?
That was my phone.
Okay.
They're likely going to have to do something that is uncomfortable more than just opening up. The uncomfortability comes with an acceptance, because likely this weight is something that's held, right? It is perpetuated, it's elongated, it's been there for a while, it has its place, it's made its own shape in there. So in order for you to let go of it, to let that wound heal, you need to essentially do the work to rip it apart, to allow it to be loosened. And to do that is essentially just continued vulnerability. So our gut is going to be to throw it out there and then barricade up. Get real safe. Because as we were describing amongst yourself and I prior to this discussion, it's being in a field, knowing that there's snipers out there, but not knowing if they want to kill you.
You know they can see you.
They can see you. If they want, they can drop you in a second. And you got to fight the urge to want to build a barricade, hide away, find a safe spot. You need to stay there. And if you actually think you're in the right spot, doing the right thing, and it's supposed to be the way it's supposed to be, they're not going to shoot you. So tangibly, what this looks like for you, or for anybody doing this action, it takes its form in continued dialogue, and then also an effort to accept the other person's input. So the fight is going to be, that person will likely give you positive feedback and continue the loop of the gauze, the removal, the cleaning, the whole thing. And it's going to feel like they're actually trying to stab you. Going to feel like they're actually trying to hurt you. Like repacking a wound don't feel good.
Yeah.
Right? But for you, the consistency is that you do not run away when they're trying to pack the wound. You do not leave. You don't get out of the hospital and run away. So you let that happen and you accept it, which is so much harder because it gives you almost no work to do.
So let's say you have done wrong. And you get to this point, you and the other person as a team working together lovingly, you've gotten to this point. And let's say you have the continued communication, progression forward. And let's say when they give you honest feedback, it stings and it feels like you're being attacked, you're being stabbed, you're being hurt, and you're able to process that, okay? Let's say you've covered all those bases. How do you make sure that they feel loved and appreciated, and that this part of your past has nothing to do with them and it will not bear its head to bite them in the future? And that, how do you let them know that here's your past and this is them?
Mm-hmm. So outside of the verbatim of describing that, right? So literally saying those things. What are the actions that affirm the statement? Again, I want to give you the clear answer. I don't think that exists. But what I think does exist is the continued loop of, I guess, repeating love. Okay? So it's the actions, the feedback, the communication, the dialogue, the continued life. It's you're building a good story. You're not building the story that your brain can tell you will be bad. So as we go, your brain's already going to run about 10 different options of stories, probably a lot more, of all the ways that it won't work out, right? All the ways that it's going to be awful. So the work for you, for this situation, is working on honing in on the story that is good. So it's really not even a matter of effort that you can, like, you'll do it, but it needs to start internal first. It needs to know that it can exist. Because right now, being out in the open, every story you have is I'm going to die. Every story that your brain in fight and flight mode has is I'm going to die. So when you don't immediately die, the next best thing you can do, think of it as anybody in any survivor camp. Like, you think, how many Jocko stories have you heard where people are in like any kind of concentration camp, Vietnam, whatever, pick it. How do people make it out of those things? It's an entire perception of where they are. If you look at it as, oh shit, this is horrible, I'm going to die, everything's bad, you will die. It will happen. So in this context, if you're looking at it, waiting for the bad thing to take place, the bad thing will take place. So your job is to imagine and bring to fruition the good story, the version that does take place, the version that should take place. So it starts within understanding, I got a million reasons why it won't work. Where's that one? Where is the one where it works? Okay, what does that look like when it works? What's the next step that happens in the good story that turns out the way it should? And then it's honing in on that, because that's a daily thing. That's, as we've kind of been discussing recently, that's a choice, right? It's a choice to step in, to find the spot where it's like, this is not my gut reaction. I don't live here in this space, but I'm choosing to find that good spot and step into that. Because if I don't choose that, all the other options will choose me. And then they will manifest in what I do. They'll come out, whether I want it or not. So if I don't choose the good, I cannot create the good.
So obviously, taking the high road every day, every paragraph, every sentence, every word, every action, every little body language cue, always taking the high road, being the humble, mature, impeccable, integrity individual.
Mm-hmm. And when you fail on that, because you will fail, not living there.
Move past as fast as you can, get back to the good.
Mm-hmm.
And then realizing your inner computer's generating 11 stories, 10 of them, the first 10 that hit you are going to be these bad ones, and actively making the decision like, no, move aside. Where's the good one? And the good one has the best outcome, and maybe understanding maybe that outcome won't come to be. Maybe it won't come to fruition. However, it's the only one worthwhile.
Mm-hmm. So that's when you aim at.
Okay.
And you treat it as if it's true and taking place. Not the other ones. Those ones will take place if you let them. That one is taking place. It's not just a metaphor, it's reality.
You good?
I'm good.
Love you.
Love you.
I do.
Do too.